She had never been a great beauty like her sister Mary, but she was a handsome woman. Her numerous pregnancies had taken their toll on her figure though, and her widening girth would become even more pronounced during the years that followed. Queen Anne had to be carried to her coronation ceremony on a specially designed sedan chair. At just 37, she was too unwell and overweight to walk the traditional processional route about 400 feet by herself. When she died in 1714, aged 49, she was placed in a coffin described by one onlooker as so wide it was almost square and bigger than that of the prince, her husband, who was known to be a fat, bulky man. It was taken to Westminster Abbey by a chariot with large, strong wheels drawn by 8 horses, where it was then carried inside by no less than 14 men. Some even claim the coffin didn't fit inside the vault and that other royal coffins had to be moved to accommodate it. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be transforming Queen Anne's portraits to see how she might have looked in real life. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Here on Mortal Faces I take portraits and transform them to see how individuals we read about might have looked in real life. So let's get started. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more historical recreations, and let me know in the comments who you'd like to see in real life. Queen Anne is one of Britain's lesser-known monarchs. As seen in the 2018 movie The Favourite, many only know the briefest details of her life. Many more are surprised to hear she existed at all, but her stories of her reign habitually start and end the same way, bookended with these two images. Queen Anne was ill, overweight, and living in a state of constant grief. History said many horrible things about her, and I'll list a few. Miserable, dull, childish, and exceedingly gross and corpulent. Sorry to see she grows fatter, said a lord. Monstrously fat, with a face that wore a tincture of sourness, and was rubicund and bloated. Blamed her weight on overeating and an addiction to hot chocolate. Her insipid tastes were limited to gambling and dining, losing pounds at one set of tables and gaining them at another. And finally, with her nature seems to be inverted. After Elizabeth I died without any direct heirs, the Tudor dynasty ended and the throne passed to Mary, Queen of Scots' son, James VI of Scotland and First of England, beginning the Stuart reign. James, even though was king of both, they were still two separate kingdoms, each with their own parliament. His great-granddaughter Anne would unite the two into one nation, Great Britain. Anne was the last of the Stuart line to rule England and was the second daughter and fourth child of King James II of England, so she was never meant to be queen. Her mother was the daughter of a gentry family of lawyers and diplomats with a history of working with previous monarchs. She met the future king while they were both exiled in the Netherlands during the English Civil War. They fell in love, got married, had 8 kids, and only 2 survived, Mary and Anne. Anne, unfortunately, just had bad genes. As a sickly child, she may have suffered from the blood disease porphyria, as well as poor vision and smallpox at the age of 12. There's also gout, lupus, and an inflamed pelvis. Poor health would plague Anne her entire life, probably contributing to her many miscarriages, 16 in fact, with only 1 surviving to 11. As a result, she was shy, conscientious, stouty, gouty, short-sighted, and very small. She was homely and did not have a particularly happy life. Anne and her sister were raised Protestant. Mary and her Protestant husband William of Orange deposed their Catholic father. They had no kids, so the throne went to Anne when they died, and that's how she got the crown. She became queen in 1702 at the age of 37 and was immediately popular, but there were things to do and she tried her best to do it. Shortly after her coronation, Anne was embroiled in the War of the Spanish Succession, which, if you haven't seen my video on Charles II, he died without any heirs, and that led to the battle for the throne. Then other countries, including England, came in because of an opportunity to gain more territories and to push their own agendas. She took a lot of interest in state affairs and the arts, really taking full reign of her empire. This included uniting England and Scotland into one entity, Great Britain, transforming the 2 parliaments into one. And lastly, as a fun fact, she was the one to knight Isaac Newton, making him the Sir Isaac Newton we are familiar with today. Her political career was filled with challenges, though. England was politically polarized between the Whigs and Tories, and Anne was in the middle. Compare that to 100 years prior, the monarchy was much more absolute. So Parliament was pulling at her all the time. Add her gout, ill health, and shyness, and it really played a toll. Despite this though, she knew being queen required a level of self-confidence, so she bulked up for the role, and this made her quite successful in tidying everything up, which ultimately laid the grounds for the next generation, which was the golden age of the Georgian era. Privately, Queen Anne had her husband, Sarah Churchill, and Sarah's cousin Abigail. She started off with her childhood best friend Sarah Churchill, Duchess of Marlborough. Sarah was ambitious and knew that Anne was, if not, then was going to be, a powerful woman, so she kept close, and her relationship paid off, being promoted to Lady of the Bedchamber when Anne became queen. Sarah, though, was domineering, and Anne eventually got tired of it. Sarah introduced her cousin Abigail, and the Queen and Abigail became new BFFs. Sarah becomes increasingly jealous and feels her power slipping away, so begins to use blackmail and force to make the Queen fire Abigail. Sarah ends up being the one who gets fired, though. Unlike Sarah, Abigail used a more gentle approach to gain the affections of the Queen, and it's understandable that Queen Anne would want to lean on a caring shoulder given all the political enemies, bullies, poor health, and 17 dead children she experienced. Her husband was her other family. He was supportive of Anne even when they disagreed on topics, and he really let her run the country herself. He was very quiet and easygoing. A big man, he loved his news, his bottle, and the Queen. Winston Churchill even said he mattered very little, except to Anne. He unfortunately dies 6 years before Anne, and she takes it very hard. And that really sums up Queen Anne. She died in 1714, her 49-year-old body battered by 17 years of pregnancy and a lifetime of obesity, lay surrounded by few friends and no family. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more historic recreations, please consider subscribing. Each of your subscriptions does help this channel grow, and it allows me to continue making more content for you. It's the best way to support me. Let me know in the comments who you'd like to see in real life. I do make a list of all your suggestions, and I will see you in the next one.